I haven't posted in a while.
I've been on Facebook for months.
You're better off.
Yeah, it's a good place not to be.
I just feel like I need to remind Facebook we're still doing class. I'm glad we got the faithful few here.
Well, she hasn't complained there as much about her back during the week. I just told her that the other day. I said, you haven't complained.
Hear that, guys?
She's like, I gotta go to the chiropractor
Works.
because my back hurts.
Let's just warm up, nice and easy, then we'll do a little groundwork because I know you love it. So we'll just do a little archer, reverse archer. You don't have to give it like the full decompression shake. Just breathe in, pull the right arm back, and as that comes forward, we'll hinge, reach with the right, left arm traces back, reverse archer. Normal archer coming to extension. And then we can just kind of flow with the breath. Like inhale up, nice and tall. Exhale. I was about to ask Jeremy what this is called again, and what is it? Tai Chi, but it's the archer, right?
Yeah, it's something along the line. It depends on, it's like yoga nowadays, I find.
Like, what do you call this
Depending on the
archer thing? He's like,
instructor,
the archer.
It's a different name.
Back heels hovering a little bit. I like how it has to grip. Let your hips rotate open. Then we close the hip as we come down.
I think it's a fighting stance that you take initially and then you go into the
All right, switch sides. Shake that off. Same little thing. Could be as long as you want. Narrow is going to kind of test your balance. Right now we're just waking up. Archer inhale. Reverse archer exhale. Should be a little stretch outer thighs. You come forward. I hear Jeremy breathing. Come on, guys. I need to breathe like an angry bear in its den. It's hibernating. That's what it sounds like.
It's that EPI or whatever they call it, breath.
Start trying to feel for that tight fascia in your back. You're stretching, spreading it out, up and down, side to side. Good, let it go. Let's do a little narrow platter. Couple decompression breaths here. Using Jeremy's idea of the inflatable snow donut tubes. Feeling the bottom one up. Keeping it expanded. Expand the tube on top of it. Work your way up all 5 lumbars. Another thigh squeeze. Let's go to hip hugger, so long wing, and then bring that long wing right to that femur bone. Little knob you feel on there, and then that'll force the hips to squeeze as you pull the elbows towards each other. Pins your shoulders down so you can push through your heels, get your spine really long, neck really long. Pull the hips behind you just an inch. Make sure you're using your abdomen to squeeze. The hips are doing the hinge, not the spine. Just take that hip hugger position, we'll drag it along the body into a platter. Pull those hips a little bit more behind you. Get those hips behind you there, Stuart. Yeah. Sphere of tension. To bring that overhead. Get that big lat stretch. I like that because it sets us up. Sometimes you just go right to the sphere of tension. It's like, you don't feel it. Sometimes you approach your founder positions with a platter. Your shoulders are more externally rotated. So then if you switch the sphere of tension, you'll feel it a lot more. All through there, rotator cuff, lat muscle. Shake it off, let's go wide. Sweating already. So this is part of a running routine, before and after, stuff you could do after running or walking. So a lot of hip mobility. But let's do a little bit of our Cossack squat, lateral hinge. Pull the hip back so we're not just going into the knee. Pulling the hip back, reaching with the arm, that helps pull that hip behind us. Push off with that heel if you want. I like both actually. Sometimes keep the foot gripping. Then coming down, that foot stays gripping the ground, a little different. That ball, that little toe wants to come up. Keeping that ball, the little toe down. Hinge the opposite side. It's not just hitting all the fascia in the spine, but also all the legs and the feet. My feet are my mortal enemy. Let's hinge both hips back. Arms behind you. Posture up, nice and big. Squeeze the ground with your legs. Scoop the arms up. Let's go platter. A couple breaths there. Draw the belly button in. Each breath finding restriction. Sphere of tension. Grab that grapefruit. Let's see if we can hinge the hips back as we bring that overhead. All right, let's come out of this like heroes, strong. We'll pull the arms down as we pull the hips up, push the ground away. Okay, shake that off. So we'll be doing our favorite 8-point plank and some anchored extension. So both of those, we want to keep the hips rolling in. He kept saying roll the hips in like a scroll, and then I didn't get it to I thought of like the old school like Torah scrolls, they'd roll out. Okay. So think about your hips, like get the scrolls this way, and we're rolling those hips in, like we're closing the scroll. You guys can see that, like those ancient scrolls that had the two wooden handles, and you'd that way. And that'll help too much extension in the low back. So we're pulling those hips in, it opens up, consistent force, keeping length in that low back in both positions. And when we're in the anchored extension, we're not too extended, but both are really good for the neck. Just watch that so we're not overworking one area. The goal is to have a good stretch on both ends of the spine. And I'm gonna join and suffer with you on this one. But that's it, there's just those two moves really. So prepare yourself, get down on the ground. Let's do one thing before we do it actually. Let's get on your hands and knees, like a tabletop position. Some of these new moves, we get so focused on what we're supposed to be doing. And I'll try to be here so you can watch me, so you don't have to look up so high. But let's just get here and think about the breath. Inhale, pulling that belly in tight. It's almost like the cat position, right? You're breathing, rounding into the spine. Pulling those shoulder blades wide, like you're consistently pushing the ground away. Pretend like I've come over and I've just sat on the top of your back and you're like, oh, I gotta push up. Focus on the breathing here. Belly pulling in. There. Try to keep that idea throughout this whole workout because it's gonna be tough. You're gonna start doing breath holding. Breathing is the most important part. Ready? Party time.
Let's move forward with some anchored extensions and 8-point planks, two very important exercises you can do from your stomach on the ground. We're going to start with the anchored extensions, squeezing the knees together, lifting the feet just a couple inches off the ground, and then pulling the elbows back against the body with the hands and elbows off the ground. The first 5 breaths we do are going to first, on the inhale, lift up your torso and widen your torso away from the ground. And on the exhale, you're going to maintain that height. You're not allowed to come down at all. Every time you inhale, it's going to take you a little bit higher, a little bit bigger, and a little bit longer in the spine. Every time you exhale, it stays, it maintains, and it becomes a very challenging exercise after 3 or 4 breaths. We're going to add a little bit of a pulse to this. You're actually going to lift your torso an additional few inches on your own as you're breathing here. So you're going to kind of come up and down, maybe 5 or 6 times, just 3 or 4 inches, that's all, as you're doing these really challenging anchored positions. Squeezing the knees, squeezing the elbows back. Notice how they just have a subtle, small amount of movement happening, up and down. Same speed up, same speed down. You're actively recruiting as many muscles around your spine and around your hips as possible while you're doing these exercises. I know you're a little bit tired, but let's add one more small layer to this and bring the thumbs back to the hip joints. We're going to do 3 small traces, pulling the elbows as wide as possible away from the body without the thumbs coming off of the body, up till about the armpits. Take a big deep breath. As you exhale, bring those arms back. 2 more. The thumbs stay connected to the body the whole time. Don't let them come off as you're pulling the elbows. Elbows as high and wide as they can go with the thumbs connected to the body. Good. Last one. Trace all the way up to the armpits. Take 2 forceful deep breaths up the top here. Every breath in is going to lift you just a little bit. Every breath out is going to maintain that height, and it's going to get hard. One more forceful breath. Give me everything you got. Squeeze the knees as tight as you can. Inflate the rib cage. And after that breath, relax. We're going to go right into an 8-point plank. This should be challenging. Your body should be already pretty warm. Elbows just slightly in front of the shoulders. Knees stay on the ground, toes stay on the ground. Pull the chin back as far as you can until the chest actually starts to expand and the rib cage expands in the back of the body here. So chin back, and now push. Big, 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 big. See how there's this wave happening as our hips come up? Perfect.
Hold the hips up.
Squeeze the abdomen as tight as you can, like you're actively bear hugging something. You're really trying to pull as much of your torso away from the ground as possible. Squeeze the knees towards each other, squeeze the elbows. Make sure you're not in an extended position. Hit the lower spine here. 2 more deep breaths. Control your breathing as well as you can. I know your body's shaking a little bit right now, but control your breathing. All the way in, just as slow all the way out. Come on down. Let's go right back into that anchored extension. Knees squeezed together. About 4 to 6 inches off the ground or so. Elbows back against the body. And let's go 3 big deep breaths. Every breath expanding and lifting your torso away from the ground. The higher your chest comes up, the harder you have to squeeze at your knees. So remember that. The higher the chest, the harder the squeeze has to be at the knees. Good. All right, perfect. Let's bring those thumbs back to the hip joints. And this time, instead of those pulses, we're going to do 6 or 7 shoulder traces here. You're going to keep the chin pulled back, and we're going to pull those elbows as high and wide as they can go without the thumbs coming off the body. That's the whole key here. The thumbs cannot come away from the side of the body. 5, 6, 7 of these. The importance is learning the movement, not how many repetitions you get through right now. Learn the movement. Practice the movements. Make sure your shoulders are working as we're trying to get them to work. Make sure the knees are squeezing together and the chin is pulling back, not hyperextending upwards. Let's go 1 or 2 more traces here. Stay really, really strong in this exercise. Keep the knees squeezing hard. And then once you're done with the traces, just relax, and we got another 8-point plank to get through. So let's go elbows down in front of the shoulders. Knees on the ground, toes on the ground, chin pulling back. Do this slowly. Don't rush into an 8-point plank. Inflate the entire spine, elongate the entire spine in a wave, and then let the hips come just a little bit off the ground. Make sure you're not hyperextending your spine. It will hurt if you are. Wrap the abdomen. Like my fingers are coming around your belly and pushing inwards, and then you have to pull in at the belly button as I do that. Squeeze as hard as you can for 5 more seconds. Very controlled breath in, very controlled exhale. Slowly come on down. We've got 1 more of each to do. We're going to do a static, hard, isometric prone extension here, all right? Squeeze the knees together. Toes come up off the ground. I want you to put your hands right at the base of the hips, just like we're about to trace. You're going to do 3 forceful deep breaths, lifting up as big as you can. And your goal in this one, in this particular anchored extension, is to squeeze the knees as hard as you can and lift the chest as high as you can with your breath. Once you're as big and broad as you can possibly be, you're going to trace your arms up until the thumbs are just about at the armpits. You're going to get the elbows as wide and high as they can possibly get. And you're going to go 5 slow, deep breaths here. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, every breath. Every single inhalation is going to widen you like the elbows are trying to pull away from each other even further. Every exhale is going to maintain that exact position. The height, the width, the stability, all of it. 2 more. Inhale as big as possible. Squeeze the knees as hard as you can. Pull the chin back even further. This should be really tough right now. Give me 1 more. Big breath all the way. And then as you exhale, come on down. We got 1 more 8-point plank. For this 8-point plank, you're going to have the same position.
So sweaty.
Knees on the ground, toes on the ground, chin pulling back. By this point, you should be a little bit better at really getting this to inflate and round. So we're looking for almost the opposite of a founder position. We're rounding the spine as you come up, widening the rib cage until you pull up. Once you're at this point, once you feel that abdomen engaged and a little bit of tremble, I want you to squeeze the knees towards each other, squeeze the elbows towards each other, and then as if you were making an X that intersects at the center of the body, squeeze everything towards the center of your body. Hard as you can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lay flat on your belly. In fact, go ahead and turn over onto your back and just relax for a couple seconds. Take a few deep breaths, let your body relax.
Good advice. Just lay there and breathe. Anyone have any pain lower back?
I have some lower back.
Did you feel it when you're doing the 8-point plank? So even if you can't lift, don't force it where you start kinking that lower back. That's when you get that pain down there like he was talking about. Should be kind of a good stretch, especially neck, in between the shoulder blades. Set that neck really good when you're doing the 8-point plank. Think about the inner thighs really squeezing before you lift, because then the lift will come from the spine. Well, it shouldn't come from the spine. If you're squeezing the thighs towards each other, the lift should come from more of the hips, more of a hip hinge, where the rest of the spine is trying to maintain, not seesaw back and forth. That might help you with the low back. Did you feel any low back, Jeremy?
No.
Good.